Please direct your attention to the screen to meet them. He excels in capturing the dynamic beauty of both urban and natural landscapes. With a keen eye for composition, he transforms ordinary scenes into extraordinary visual narratives. Introducing a celebrated commercial and landscape photographer, Chris Matsino. Bringing a unique blend of creativity and expertise to his photography, he shares his knowledge and passion for the art, inspiring countless aspiring photographers as an esteemed photography instructor. A distinguished commercial photographer and photography instructor, let's give a warm welcome to Ricky Ladia, also known as the Chief. A proud Davoeña, she is also a distinguished photojournalist whose work captures the heart and soul of Mindanao. Her compelling images are celebrated for its emotional depth and cultural richness, telling powerful stories of the people and places she encounters. Reflecting her deep connection to her roots, let us meet renowned travel photojournalist, Georgie Alcantara. She is still on the way from the airport, but nonetheless, welcome. Specializing in architectural and commercial photography, he has developed a pursuit of perfection and attention to detail, making him an in-demand photographer for the country's leading real estate, engineering, and hospitality brands. Presenting distinguished commercial and architectural photographer, Jay Halorina. Renowned for capturing the dynamic energy of the diverse places, nature, and people he encounters. His travel photography is a vibrant celebration of the world's beauty. A celebrated travel photographer and the pride of Cebu. Let us welcome Erwin Lim. Her travel photography resonates with warmth and authenticity, capturing the essence of the places she visits. Her work offers a heartful glimpse into a different cultures and lifestyle. Say hello to distinguished travel photographer, Arlene Donaire. Excelling in landscape and travel photography, he captures the majestic beauty of nature and diverse cultures. His work reflects a deep appreciation for the world's natural wonders. Introducing esteemed landscape and travel photographer and proud Bulaqueño, Jeremy Sandel. Founder of STRT, he is known for his dynamic compositions and thought-provoking images that capture the essence of life on the streets. Please meet distinguished street photographer, Raymond Tanueco. Specializing in landscape and commercial photography, he compelling compositions merges artistic vision with commercial appeal. Introducing the pride of Bacolod, landscape and commercial photographer, John Kimuel Laluma. Renowned for his daring and adventurous spirit, he fearlessly captures the untamed beauty of the world's most challenging environments, including images from the highest peak on Earth. Let's welcome extreme outdoor photographer Ronson Nang. Last but not the least, known for his breathtaking bird's eye views, his innovative perspectives and masterful use of drone technology reveal the beauty and complexity of landscapes from above. Although he is unable to join us today, let's recognize Omel Cruz, a visionary aerial photographer. Thank you to all our wonderful ambassadors for sharing your incredible talents with us. Now we've come to the most exciting part of our event. Let's hear from the founder of Radiant Photo himself, the man of the hour. He is an internationally acclaimed professional travel photographer, writer, experienced public speaker, and highly skilled educator who spends his life capturing some of the most beautiful locations in the world. His work has been featured by Professional Photographer Magazine, CNET, Wacom, SmagMag Films, Adobe, Fujifilm, and F-Stoppers. Since beginning his full-time career in photography in 2009, he has visited more than 65 countries, flown nearly 2 million miles, and collaborated with major companies, brands, countries, NGOs, and tourism agencies on nearly every continent. Please join me in welcoming the Elia Locardi. Photo opportunity with all our Radiant Photo ambassadors and our co-founder, Elia Locardi. May I request all the ambassadors and Sir Elia to please on stage. To remain on stage, we also want to acknowledge the ambassadors of our event, co-presenters, Summit Creative, and invite them to come up for a photo opportunity. First one, Summit Creative is also thrilled to share the ambassadors. Happens to be also Radiant Photo ambassadors, Jay Halorina and John Kimuel Laluma, no less. Next, we have a multi-awarded and internationally published Filipino nature storyteller who combines photography, film, poetry, and social media to promote and mainstream Philippine biodiversity and natural heritage. Please welcome Celine Morillo. Next, we have a Filipino nature photographer and filmmaker who, along with his spouse, Celine, travels around the Philippines, documenting the country's natural landscapes and wildlife. Please welcome Dennis Morillo. Our next ambassador is a dynamic travel and tech content creator known for her captivating video content that showcases the best of travel brands, destinations, resorts, restaurants, and cutting-edge technology. Her passion drives her to inspire others to discover hidden gems and new tech in the country. Please welcome Jo Serrano. We have a seasoned travel content creator known for his breathtaking cinematic drone footage, capturing some of the most iconic landscapes and hidden gems in the Philippines from unique perspectives. Please welcome Jack Ponpon. Although they're not here with us today, Summit Creative PH. Oh, he is here right now. All right. The distinguished freelance photojournalist has covered some of the most significant news events in recent history, including Pope Francis' 2015 visit, the Philippine drug war, Typhoon Haiyan, the Marawi crisis, and the efforts of pandemic frontliners. Her compelling works have been featured in various international wire agencies and local news outlets, such as the Associated Press, the European Press Agency, and the National Press Radio. We are proud to introduce Alex Ongkal. And last but not the least, this independent professional photographer and photojournalist has a keen focus on social and environmental issues. His powerful images and stories have graced web and print media both locally and internationally. His personal works provide diverse perspectives on everyday life, capturing the essence of the streets, urban landscapes, and rural scenes. We are honored to introduce Gilson Pugh. May I request everyone for a photo opportunity. Beautiful smiles, everyone. Thank you, dear ambassadors. Thank you so much, everyone. You may now return to your seats. So now, without further ado, we'd also like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Nelson Perez, JG Superstar Distribution Head. We're also thrilled to share that Pixel Perfect, your photos deserve to be radiant. The Radiant Photo PH Grand Launch is co-presented by Summit Creative and Ayala Foundation. We couldn't have made this event happen without the amazing support from our wonderful partners and sponsors. Fujifilm Philippines, Zone 5 Camera Club, Pro Art by Asus Philippines, Quantum Matrix Design, SanDisk, Wacom, Seagate, Lassie, Nanlite, Sirui, Manfrotto, Sigma, Samyang, EcoFlow Philippines by Enable, and Big Pigs Graphic Systems. Don't forget to share this momentous event on all your social media and use the hashtags. Hashtag RadiantPhotoPH, hashtag Shoot More, Edit Less, and hashtag Photo Editing Software, and hashtag Summit Creative. inviting everyone to please do share your momentous event, your photos and your videos in all your social media accounts. Please do include our official hashtags for today's event. Hashtag Radiant Photo PH, hashtag Shoot for Editless, and hashtag Photo Editing Software, and hashtag Summit Creative.
Check.
Hello everyone, may I request everyone to please settle down? Without further ado, let's give the floor to Elia Locardi.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I mean, seriously, this is amazing. Thank you everybody for the support, sponsors, our team, just everybody. Okay, it's so nice to be here. I don't even know what else to say. I'm that happy about being here. So welcome everybody to the Pixel Perfect event. And by now you've either heard of or heard somebody say Radiant Photo, right? And then if you followed any of my work or somebody briefed you on anything, you're like, why the heck did they put this guy in charge of making software? That's a good question. Maybe I can answer it. So a little bit about my background really quickly. My name is Eli Locardi. I also figured out that I need to shorten my bio. When it was read, it was a lot. Just be like, it's this guy and he did things, and go ahead. So what I've been doing for the past 15 years is moving around a lot. I grew up in a very small town, didn't travel for a long time, and I always admired the idea of a journey of 1,000,000 miles beginning with a single step. And that could be your photography journey, that could be leaving the house. Sometimes that's much more difficult. But for me, it always starts with a flight. And for years and years and years, what I learned about flying, all the positive things that happen, it ends with a lot of jet lag. Sorry guys. Does anybody know what the cure is? There is no cure. That's what I'm wondering, if anybody has one. Sometimes people say spicy food. I can tell you that is not the cure for jet lag. We just deal with it, right? So, and they have this old planes wrapping around the globe. So I visited more than 70 countries, flown more than 2 million miles. I'm very happy to be able to do it. But what was probably the most interesting thing about my career, and probably the coolest thing about my wife, because she was all in on this, was to become location independent. Which is the way you tell your parents you're gonna be homeless. Location independent. Sounds really organized, but basically it means we sold everything, and for 5 years, we traveled without a home base. What you see there is my collection of boarding passes. And it's a full amount. I don't do that anymore, by the way. I'm all digital now. But for those 5 years, we collected everything, train tickets and everything. It's still in a box. I think my daughter, who's turning 5, will inherit it, and she's probably gonna say, Dad, I don't know what to do with this. But it's interesting. So being on the road full-time means that you're not just moving from place to place, you're packing up your life every time. So not packing for trips, you're just putting everything away, you know? And you have to make sure that you have everything for the airlines and everything's the right weight. You get a new jacket, another jacket has to go away. And it was an interesting, way to spend those 5 years. And then life changes. Obviously having a child was good timing to buy a house right before a pandemic. That worked out pretty well. A lot of things that kind of contribute to how things are now. So I've spent the last, pretty much all of my career just trying to identify beautiful places and capture them and convey the mood of the location throughout the photography. So lots of emotion. and obviously some technical details. But what I've also tried to do is simplify techniques, whether that's in the field or editing. I always want to make it accessible. I always want people to understand that it's a lot easier than you think it is, and I never wanted editing photos to become a barrier for people or cause them to be intimidated by the photography process. Because when we pick up a camera, we think about taking photos. We shouldn't have to think about, oh man, how am I gonna edit this, or what software I'm gonna use, all those things. That shouldn't matter as much as the desire to capture life or capture emotions around you. And that contributed to the education that I give, the talks that I do about travel, photography, and a lot of post-processing. And I created a series, it's 10 years old now, which is, I mean, we're all kind of doing that like, oh, 10 years. We don't really want to think about that, right? 10 years we created Photographing the World, and the F-Stoppers team and I traveled to 12 different countries. We started teaching photography in the field, all the way through what we're capturing on location, through post-processing. And whatever the image was that we captured, we did our best to make it look great in post. And over those years, it got to the point where I was simplifying things, making it more simple. Now, if you want to sell videos on YouTube, you have to keep making things more complicated. That's why I'm not on YouTube, because I make it simple. Like, I want it, it's not difficult, let's make it simple. And it's refined and it changes over the years. So throughout this process, for the last 10 years, I've been working with and consulting different software companies. I worked with Nick Collection before Google acquired them and made Snapseed. I helped Adobe bring RAW to the iPad. I helped develop sky replacement technology. You're welcome. And everybody's happy about that one. But it gave me a unique experience of being able to be a creative that loves helping making things better. So I worked on a lot of the cameras with Fujifilm, the lenses. I was just part of the X-T5 release in Tokyo. It's been so much fun to combine these things. And I've also met some amazing technical people, some amazing passionate people that get it, that are photographers and are trying to make it better, trying to improve the photo experience. And that's actually how this started. So throughout those 10 years, there's a point where software companies stop making it about photography, and they start making it about adding unicorns and things in the scene now, or we start making things like Canva. We say, you know what? Forget professionals. It's all about Instagram selfies. So this is the natural progression. And it became a running dialogue with my friends that, hey, when this company X, whatever, well actually, X is not a good example now because Elon Musk has it. When this company crashes, why don't we just buy their technology and make something different? Like, why don't we do this ourselves? Pandemic came, and I started researching that. What would it take? What would it take for us to be able to create software? What technology can we use? What can we license? What makes sense? How do we take my knowledge and combined knowledge of my business partners who have been doing this for almost as long as I've been alive, color grading and things. How do we do this? And we just tried, and we made it happen. And Radiant Photo is the result of that. And there's a lot of small text here, it doesn't even actually have to read it. But the idea behind Radiant Photo was, we want to make something that we will use. So if nobody buys it, that sucks, but we'll still use it. I think there was a point where I had a huge project and all these deadlines I was working on, and it was just in beta, right? It didn't even have an interface, and I'm like, man, I wish I had this. So there were a couple of things that we really started out with the intention, this is made by photographers, every single one of us on the team, we're all photographers. That's really important. Dedicated to creating tools that are good for photography. It's fast. And you're gonna see examples today. It opens and edits a 16-bit image faster than Photoshop opens that image. It's wild. I almost can't believe it. There's funny stories behind that too. Our motto, we put no fuzz on this, but our first slogan was no bullshit. Radiant photo, no bullshit. We don't do any of those things that we hate when other companies do it. You know why? Because we're the ones making the decision. So right now, we have, we're not in the cloud, for example. You don't need an internet connection. We're not taking your data. In fact, I don't even know what to do with the data if we were taking it. We make it as easy as possible. We want people to like it, try it. If it improves your photography, you find a way to use it, that's great. If not, that's great too. We're not trying to replace your workflow. We're not trying to make you change your workflow. Drop all the other software, or this is going to be a Lightroom killer. All those things that we've heard from other companies, that's great. And I still use a lot of software. So if you're like me, you wish there was one piece of software that you could use and you didn't have to keep using all these other elements. And we have that. It's Photoshop. But nobody wants to put every single image into Photoshop. So the idea that something can do everything defeats the purpose of finding things that can do things specifically well. Noise reduction. Topaz is amazing. I use it, right? It's really good. But I don't have super noisy images. If I do, I use it, right? We're always going to have tools for that. So for us, we sort of really broke it down into what's the main focus of photography for us after we decide to capture the moment. And I kind of describe this like with my daughter. Most of the shots come from my iPhone, because it's there, it's fast. The first shot is capturing her doing something cute. Right? The second one is probably a little bit more level. The third one, I hit the 2 button, I get a little bit lower, and there's like a reflection, right? So there's like, capture it, improve it, make it better, and then make it something that I can put on the wall, right? So if you ask yourself this question, and we'll look at this, I love this. If you're a landscape photographer, why can your iPhone expose for the sky and the foreground at the same time? Good question. Why can't your $6,000 Fujifilm GFX2? Sorry, I'm a Fujifilm ambassador, I have the same camera. How come I can't see the foreground and the background at the same time in the raw file, right? These are just things we started to accept. So making great images, this is the one thing. And not making this part the hard part. If your photos could come developed, would you put that option on the camera? If Fujifilm, Canon, Nikon had an option, and you could say developed, and it's still a raw file, wouldn't it be nice to just have a starting point where you could see anything? Like the auto button in Lightroom before you say, but at least it's you can see everything, right? So this is the other benefit, exposure, and then also portrait control. So something that was really, really important to us, and something that we've understood for a long time, and working with photographers all over the world, and I get to call a lot of them my friends, close friends, is that every different skin tone requires different lighting. So everybody's kind of encountered that, and historically, makeup, presets, and everything is made for white skin. So we started working with a company that developed the first ever skin tone AI that can recognize any skin tone in the world and perfectly preserve it and mitigate those issues. So we wanted to make sure that this worked and it was for everyone. And I'll have some examples of that too. Now, this is the question I fundamentally asked myself for, since I ever had a raw file. When you bring something into Adobe Lightroom, and I'm thinking of landscapes, right? What do you do first? You try to make it look normal again, right? We're constantly using, no matter what professional camera we have in the world, to capture images, and then it's our job to make them all look normal again. That's kind of weird. So 20 years ago, I had a $10 disposable camera, and somebody else developed all of my photos for me. Now I have a $6,000 16-bit camera, and I have to process and develop all my photos one by one myself. Does that seem funny to you? It seems funny to me because I don't consider editing, Sliders, right? And here's another question, you're gonna like this. How many times in Lightroom have you moved the exposure slider and been happy that your highlights and shadows have disappeared? I say thanks Lightroom every time. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Of course, if I want to change the exposure to blow everything out. So this slider broke that, this one fixes that but breaks something else, this one whatever. And before we know it, we've applied every combination of tools and we're not sure what normalized it, we're not sure what is counteracting it, we're not sure if we're destroying it, but at least it's raw. Well, actually, every single thing you do to an image is destructive. There is no true nonlinear nonlinear editor yet. The difference is you can undo it. And now, welcome to the world of raw photography and the infinite indecision engine. We never know something's done because there's so many options. I'm not sure, things like that. And this is the reality of a situation. Like, not the reality of this location. If you've ever been there, I've only seen it like this one time. Usually it's like, Iceland weather. But this is shot with an iPhone 6s, right? Like this is that image. This is what came out of the camera. So this is undeveloped, and this is developed. So just kind of looking with the iPhone capture, we can kind of agree that the scene probably is a little closer to that than that, right? So cityscapes, you guys have some good ones here, right? Does it look like that, or can you see more? So this is where it gets really fun. Like this to me is landscape photography, because this is what I see in the back of the camera, but eventually after a lot of work I get to see that, right? So here's the fundamental, thanks for the wow by the way. I'm just showing like examples like this one sucks, that one like it's lit correctly. So, this is fun. Now, what I have learned, this is advice from me to you, is never make decisions at 2 or 3 a.m., right? Like don't send the email and everything, because we're the ones who decide on what is in radiant photo and what's not. We do sleep on things now, but if you do use it, you'll notice the presets for radiant cats. That was a 3 a.m. decision. There are little Easter eggs in there, by the way, because radiant photo is fully adaptive AI. Now here's what's funny, and Jay Jallarena loves to be controversial, and I think he's going to do it. What is good AI? What is bad AI? What is the AI that tells you which AI to use for your AI these days? So there's a difference. These days now we have generative AI. So you can prompt text, you get video, you get images, you can do this, you got content aware, fill with unicorns, all that stuff, right? It's generating new pixels. Radiant Photo does not do that. It adapts to every image, it knows what the pixels are, and it optimizes each one. There's no masking because you don't need masking when it can edit every pixel. Imagine a curves adjustment for every single pixel. It's not exactly like that, but it kind of feels that way. So what else? It's fast. It really is fast. Especially if you have a Mac. I wish everybody had a Mac like with the, like an M1 to M4. It's 16-bit. And we know how valuable this can be, right? So we're usually shooting 12-bit, 14-bit, and then sometimes 16-bit. If you have a chance to try the GFX 100 and the new one, my advice is to never try it. Because once you start working with the raw file, you're gonna wanna buy it. And then you guys know how it goes. Why can't you just have the one lens that does it, it's 18 to 400, and if it's like, why do you need the f2? You get it. But it's important. Non-destructive, and here's what I've been really passionate about, and I've studied. I went to art school, I had to draw and paint a color wheel because this was, in the early 2000s when they made us like hand paint this stuff, Gmail just came out, we didn't have YouTube, we couldn't search things. Preserving colors. So capturing a moment and capturing it for your memories, capturing it for your portfolio, for your job, for anything. Color to me influences almost everything that I do. The Fujifilm has film simulations. The most popular one is classic chrome. I love it too. And we intend that. You should shoot film. You pick the film stock that would represent the color tonality that you want, and then the speed and the other technical things. Color. So the preservation of color. Radiant Photo is the only consumer application that can preserve color throughout editing. Now, world's first skin tone AI. I mentioned that. So what's really fun is, we've talked about what it is. Here's what it's not. It's actually fun to market and go in the negative. It's like, yeah, here's all the things that we're not going to do. It's not generative AI. Okay. What does that mean? We don't add any pixels. We're not going to have generative AI. It's not going to happen. You do you with Adobe, Firefly, whatever. If you need it, you need it. No new pixels are created. Every pixel is yours. We're just developing it. No cloud is needed. You don't pay per image. It runs locally on your computer or on your phone. So it's about 300 megs, the entire software. So when you get an update, I'm not going to name names, Skyloom. It's like as big as your computer. Like, yeah, it's clean, efficient, fast code. AI presets are fully customizable. So something that we thought was, this was an experiment the year leading up to releasing, and I asked you, what if software could edit all your photos for you? You'd say that's impossible, it can't pinpoint my style, all of those things. Yeah, that is 100% true, because we're not sure what editing means. But if something could get your images print ready, how would we feel? That sounds good, right? I have no idea what that means. It's just, it sounds good. We're going to develop. But everything's customizable. So it doesn't live on the cloud, it lives locally, and if you don't like the settings, change them. Make them how you want. So these are things that are not intuitive in software because they want to trap you into using something. We don't. We'd rather you find new ways to use it. So you cannot generate a unicorn. Sorry. Or space shuttles, nothing like that. So that is I have to say that because it's very important. There's no cartoon filter, there's no anything like that. And it's fun. So, photos are automatically developed, perfect exposure, contrast, color, and tone. This is really important. And color is fully preserved, which is my favorite part of it. So AI skin detection, color preservation, and it's been trained and continues to be trained on every skin tone in the world. That's important to us because we can not only detect the skin tone, but we can modify the colors around it. We can make sure that it prioritizes it. We can make sure that the AI understands what bounce light is compared to cast light, compared to fill light, compared to infrared light. It separates all of those things and develops the skin tone before any retouching is applied. So in a world where we could do this and we didn't have to overcorrect things, the skin tones, we may not have ever needed Facetune. Oh man, what a world it would have been, right? So yeah, we're not gonna have Facetune either, guys, sorry, it's not gonna happen. It's pretty cool. I'm gonna show you guys a couple examples of this, but basically it's able to detect and automatically adjust for skin tones. And as you start to roll through different settings, you can change the skin tone priority, but you're basically using Radiant Photo, and Radiant Photo is now saying this skin tone is the most important part of the subject, and the subject now is the main element of the photo because it's subject aware. So let's prioritize the subject and prioritize it within the background. Have you ever masked a person and then changed the colors and it looks like it's two-dimensional because the colors don't change in the background? This changes the background too. So you can see as it swipes through, it knows what should be white, right? And it doesn't mess up the skin tones when it does it. It's so cool. It's one of my favorite things. A lot of the times we don't get anything done because we just zoom in and geek out on what it's doing. And then we realize that we forgot to write all the marketing emails. So we also have now the mobile version. And the only difference between the mobile app and the desktop app is that it's on a mobile. I know that's the dumbest answer ever, but it just has a different interface. But essentially the same algorithm is there, and it's interesting. I don't think you guys can hear that, so I'm gonna turn this down. So we had it was interesting. So as I was creating, we were working on Radiant Photo, everybody's like, oh man, it would be great if this was on mobile. And I'm like, yes, it would. It would be great, right? And then when we created the mobile app, everybody's like, oh man, I wish this was on desktop. And I'm like, I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked. So this is kind of where we're at, and it's really interesting. So I kind of showed some of this, but I have brought just a couple images into Radiant Photo that I wanted to show. So these images are brought in, so you can see here's the before, and here's the after. I moved one slider, but don't worry about that. This is as simple as it can be, right? So we go from this to this. So right now, the way that I'm thinking about this is a starting point, because I haven't done any additional editing. So instead of the starting point being here, right, it can be here. Now, what's cool about this, and this is my favorite thing. Actually, I'm gonna say my favorite thing like 10 times. Sorry. It's like having 5 points, but you only think of 4. When we change the exposure, guess what? It doesn't blow out the highlights. So subject-aware exposure. That's actually patented tech. It's pretty cool. Sorry, I really like it. I'm like, thank you for understanding that we did not want to destroy the integrity of our photo. And this is a really good example of this. So this is not my photo. If you guys know the landscape photographer Albert Dross, he's one of my oldest friends. So every time I see him, I take his hard drive for a little while. Albert, I'm using this image. Okay, it's fine. Use it. But here's the before image. So what's fun is when we really understand how to train AI, we can not only train it to not worry about changing color, understanding that subject color is different than cast light, but then we can quickly go from this to this with one slider. So now think about doing this in any other develop module, right? So this is the key to saying, okay, developing is not editing. Editing is your style, right? We normalize something and then we make the change. So Radiant Photo's job is to make images look good so you can make them great. And the reason it's faster is because we very quickly can go from this to this. This is the default. I just opened this image. This image too. So if I zoom in here, it's actually really interesting. So this is a pretty, I say pretty typical, it's an amazing shot. But you see how it's a little bit blown out here? Radiant Photo just cleans it up. Like, so it's just as important that software does change the image, but it's equally or more than important of what it doesn't do, right? So if you have, let's say, a slider, it's 100%, and everything's almost perfectly exposed, nothing really happens. So the best compliment when people say, oh, it hardly did anything, we're like, good, right? That's good, because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to not change things, right? It's supposed to understand different colors and different elements, and also preserve color separation and different things like that. I did take this photo. I know it's weird that there's a person in it. And again, it knows when you change the exposure that you're not intending to blow out the background. It understands that when we're talking about contrast and depth, we're not trying to blow different things out. So very quick. And that's really the foundation of how it works, and it's also able to edit here to here while prioritizing and maintaining every single color separately. So here, this is obviously a lot of bounce light, but we can mitigate that right away. So it just removes the cast light on the face, around everything, and lets all the colors work out. These are actually stock images from Adobe, the free ones, because we're a startup, right? But so it knows what colors should be, but more importantly, it knows what the colors already were, right? So sometimes it's startling when you enhance an image because you think it's messing with the color, but when you look at the before image, you realize that, oh wow, no, that was the actual color that was in the scene. So being able to maintain the structure of color throughout an editing process is only in Radiant Photo. If you start changing exposure and different things in any other application, everything starts turning gray or white, right? So that's believe it or not, this AI that we're using is 20 years old. I don't remember it. It's like my grandfather's AI, right? Like I thought that was like a recent thing. So 20 years of color science for this in the print industry. And I could just roll through some of these. It's so fast. But what I'm really, really proud of, and this was a recent update on our version 1.3. 1.4 just came out the other day too, is this is already a really nice natural light image, right? But by default in Radiant Photo, it prioritizes the skin tone and cleans up the scene. There are other things that it's able to do, which are really interesting. It's just giving dimension to something, you know, before and after. And I haven't made any changes to this, but I asked one of my friends, who's an amazing photographer, to give me challenging images. Like, I want something that you think it's impossible to edit. So he sent me this. I mean, that's a crazy outfit. So we have every color here. Well, what happens if we're just trying to change exposure now with all of that calculation? So this is the fun part. So we get a lot of questions about Radiant Photo, and there are questions like, why don't we have masking? And my answer, if I really want to be sarcastic, is why would you need it? So if you were to mask an image like this, and I love the masking system in Photoshop and Lightroom, it is a game changer, right? Being able to do this. If I make a selection of the horse, will that selection cover all the anti-aliasing there? Will it be able to also correct these little spots of dust and specks of dirt? No. So we are now celebrating 2 years of Radiant Photo being available in September, October. 3.5 years I've been working on this project, and it became an obsession, but it's really fun. Because what we're actually doing and what we advertise is what it actually does. So the biggest compliment that we get is, wow, it does what it says it does, okay? What other software do we have out there that does exactly what it says it'll do? Not much, actually. So maybe it hurts our marketing. We don't make fake before and afters. We try to make something that we hope is useful for people. So whether you use it as a plugin in Photoshop, a plugin in Lightroom, a standalone application, if you use it on your iPhone before you send all your images to your mom, because that's what I do. Instead of having to pick the one photo of the 50 birth shots of my daughter, I'm like, let's just batch process them real quick through Radiant Photo and then choose. It does all of those things. So that's why I'm most excited about this. I never expected to do this, but as we started progressing, we started teaching, started seeing product development, where things were going, to me, this started to make sense. Because there was a point with software I just had to question why. And why are we doing this the same way over and over again? Is it because it's the best way to do it, or we're just used to it? So the develop panel, 15 years, we've been doing that. That's a pretty good run. So, yeah, that's pretty cool, right? So I made this a little longer than I meant to, but the main feature is that it's easy. And it's designed for professional photographers, but it's also designed, see how good that was? So I just closed my presentation. I was like, I'm gonna end on the best slide ever. So, can you guys switch back to the best slide ever? So yeah, thanks for coming. It's one of those really interesting things, and we're at a point now with the version that we have. I spent the last month in talking to engineers, to development, to all of the different people. We don't have investors, but we do have partners, and listing every single feature that we're going to have in version 2 when that's coming out. And last week, after weeks and weeks of actually having to be an executive on these calls to get all this done, we have final sign-off. So in August, you're going to see some of the next features that are going to be evolved features. And there are a few things that we're doing that I can't talk about yet, because there are a couple companies that like to just say they're doing exactly what we're doing. On one, whoops. They do. They copy all the marketing. Sorry, on one. Great software, same marketing. We're making it even easier, more accessible. We're currently training the AI to recognize more scenes, to be able to detect different types of birds, different types of people and portraits, and we're able to refine these results. So imagine if the AI could detect if it was a mountain scene, if it was a cityscape during the day, at night, and we could route it through the settings so that that starting or finish point was perfectly accurate. And then imagine where you could fully customize it and make it the default for every image that you do. So this is what we're working on. And basically, after spending 10 years selling photography education, I am making myself obsolete. Because all of those things, we say frequency separation, luminosity masking, all of those complicated things that we've learned, yes, it does all that stuff, but it doesn't. You don't have to know, right? Like we have to know. You just say, oh, okay, the exposure's right, and that feels good. Well, thanks everybody. Enjoy your time here. If you have any questions, there are plenty of people who are smarter than me here that can answer them.
Thank you, Elia, for sharing us with your vision for Radiant Photo. Again, let's give him a warm round of applause, everyone. Ayan, your passion is really remarkable. Can you stay here on stage? Because we're now accepting questions. If you have any queries for Sir Elia, the floor is now officially open. And we're also requesting the brand ambassadors of Radiant Photo. If you can also answer, give your insights about Radiant Photo, please feel free to do so. Once again, I'm opening the floor for questions. Please do raise your hand if you have any. All right, we have our first question for today. Hello, sir. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Ted Claudio from WhatsApp.ph. I'm really excited to install this software. It will really save a lot of time, especially in the editing process. My question is, for us covering events, especially like for example for sports, you don't want to miss anything, so you come up and shoot a lot of photos. So one thing that was not shown was how is the photo management part of it. Like for example, if you want to cull or delete the unwanted images, how easy it is to sort of delete and select images from hundreds of photos to select only a few.
That's still going to be up to you, but we are introducing even refined tools for IPTC cards. We're making some strides with wire photographers, frontline war or media events, so that we can send these things right to press, right to the organization's AP and everything, fully edited to their specs with all of the IPTC and title information intact. So what I can say is whatever culling process you're using already, you just batch it through Radiant Photo, use the batch, and we can start to be able to route it directly for delivery too. So you can actually use the iOS version or the Android version, tether your camera directly to the phone, and be editing everything back and forth to the card. So instead of culling and editing, you could be just having everything edited before you cull. So we start to think about it in different ways. And then there's some other really good culling tools for that problem. Good question.
Last question is,
Sure.
for those who are not into the Apple ecosystem, so one of the problems is the performance. So how does it perform on Intel-based platforms? Taking into consideration also now the new Intel Iris technology.
It runs well on I don't say PCs anymore, right? Like Windows-based machines. But I think that processor is going to address a lot of issues, right? We optimize it for everything that we can, and we support more operating systems than we probably should. But usually when support comes in, why is it not doing this? It's like, oh, did you update your operating system? No, I never update my operating system. You're like, okay, well, it's been 10 years. You might want to update. So yeah, it runs, it's optimized for everything, but in the Android market and the Windows machine, there's so many different variations that we do our best. And what I can say though is if there is something that's lagging or hanging on, our support team, they're real people. We get right back to you, and if it becomes something that we can identify as an issue, it immediately goes into Jira, where we have our ticket system, and directly to the engineers. So probably within the next few days or the next update, if you find something, that's what we say, please, it's not just because we don't want to hear you complain, it's because this might be a bug, but if it isn't, we have a fix. If it is, we fix it.
Thank you very much.
We don't support Windows 95, so it's fine. I know, for all of you who still use Microsoft Paint, we just...
Okay, any questions?
Yes, hi sir, good morning. I'm Red, I'm one of the blogger from Medium. I focuses on photography contents and tech. You said that Radeon is a non-cloud based and it runs locally through the PC or laptop. I just want to make sure, since there are some upcoming updates, specifically the AI detection scenes, how do you plan on applying the updates through the applications, through phone and mobile if it's not cloud-based?
The same way you update anything else. The difference is you still have to download the software, but if you're not connected to the internet, it'll run. But the next time you connect to the internet, if there's an update, you can download an update. The same thing with the iOS and Android. I have auto updates enabled, but you'll just receive the updates. So when we say no cloud or no internet connection, you don't have to have an account with us. You don't have to do a login or anything like that. You download it, you use it. You don't have to update it. I recommend updating your apps. It helps a lot. But there's no cost per image. It's not something like Evoto, which has some really cool things, where you have to send your images to the cloud for them to be edited. If you send everything, connect your iPad, iPhone, all those things, it's all locally. It does not require an internet connection to be present or a cloud account to see results. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. And last one, since most of the camera or the photo editing apps already have the AI scene identifier, do you have any plans of developing anything like the camera detection AI identifier, like if it's taken through a DSLR or a mobile, since the pixel qualities is kind of different when it comes to mobile versus DSLRs?
So the way the scene detection works is it routes us through the settings that we want to use, but it's not relevant to the adjustment itself. If you turned off the scene detection and just checked one or made your own preset, the scene recognition, the scene detection is not needed for the adjustment. And the reason is the adjustments that we train are based on images. So when there's scene detection, and I love the friends at Imagine AI, that needs to have Lightroom. That's EXIF data, these are changes. This is true one-to-one. So every pixel is identified and adjusted, regardless of the scene and the way it's detected. How scene detection and object recognition works is it knows, and you'll see this here, it knows the difference between a person and a landscape and an animal, right? Like we can do these. What you're gonna see is specific things in genres. So you'll see things like a workflow set just for bird photographers or just for this. When we're training AI, and this isn't something that we're gonna do, I mean, not yet, any information that's contained in the EXIF data for an image can be used. So we can take the GPS location. Eventually we'll get to the point where we'll know you shot this in Iceland, facing this direction, at this time of year. We can pull historical data, all of the weather and everything, and identify all of those things too. And Google's starting to work on those projects. And you know how they're training it? Our images. So we don't train our images based on how normal AI work. So the images that we use are either our images or images that we've licensed, and you never see them. They're specifically used to identify something, and since it's non-generative, we never use them later. We just make it better and better and better. But the algorithm that's responsible for the editing can be simplified into one slider that can work on 99.9% of any of the images we ever take. It's getting that good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another question? Anyone?
Yeah, it's always fun. Like questions, you have to stay on stage. I try to look at everybody. I see lights.
Hi sir, good morning. My name is Rain. My question is actually just to clarify. You get the same result from the PC, the PC app, and then the mobile app.
Exactly. Yeah. There are some things that don't come through all the way. Like, for example, the skin tone AI will come in the next version. That's something that we're adapting. So it's available, but it has no interface yet. So we're still building it. We will be releasing camera apps. Right now, Radiant Photo, the mobile version, is an editing app, but we're building camera apps next. That we should start seeing them by the end of the year. I build roadmaps now. We don't say release dates anymore. It's like bad luck. We say, probably this year, early next year. So we're bringing some more of the features, being able to take some of the presets or plugins and make them cross-compatible, things like that. But essentially, the core AI system and the way it detects, analyzes, and edits is one-to-one the same.
How about the presets? Is there a limit on the number of presets you can store on the app?
Oh no, you can make as many as you want.
Thank you.
No problem. You should see my partner's thing. He has thousands of it gives me anxiety to look at Richard's copy of Radiant Photo. I'm like, how do you even? He's like a preset genius.
All right. Anyone else? Any more questions? Hi, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Azrael. Since you have the Radiant for photos, any plans of making it Radiant for videos in the future?
Oh yeah, see, I'm really bad at marketing. The mobile app does process videos too. Yeah, so yeah, we do. But it's actually there. So for example, if you have the mobile app, you can load videos in, and it applies the same algorithm, but you don't have as many settings. And the reason is they're not optimized for real time. So what we're going to see is color grading, and then we're going to see more tools for video. You're not going to edit videos, we're not going to cut together film strips or things like that or add audio, but you'll be able to treat all of the videos that you shoot the same way. So eventually almost just being able to batch it. And you can select combinations of photos and videos, everything from your camera roll, and it'll process everything for you. Thank you for asking that. See, that's the thing about being a small company. You're like, oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's a big deal.
But that's available only on the app?
Yep, that's available only on the mobile app for now, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What I've learned too, speaking fluent engineer, is that anytime I think something's quick and easy, it ends up being like a 9-month project where I'm like, let's not do that.
Okay, this one is the last question. Anyone?
Don't give it to Jay.
Anyone else who wants to ask for the final question for Sir Elia? Yes.
Sorry, Jay. No, I'm not sorry.
I'm just kidding. Question. I just want to congratulate Radiant for making this event possible. I know for the last couple of months, weeks, super stressed, the whole team. But to see it now, congratulations to everyone. But I want to ask Elia. I know I haven't asked you this question, but I wanted to know, why did you pick the Philippines as your... Is this the first country in Southeast Asia that you launched Radiant? Or why the Philippines?
Why the Philippines? Man, there's so many good answers to that. Even you're part of it, Jay. Yeah.
I know.
So I'll give like a short story of it. But when I first started traveling to this region, I just had overwhelming support and friendship from everybody here. Like it was just instant comfort with somebody who's never been in this area to come here. I was also always inspired by the Fujifilm ambassadors because I was a visitor here and just blown away by the talent of people here, and also just honestly, guys, the friendliness, the family culture, and things like that. And why did we want to do it here? Because I just feel like sometimes it takes a village. We're a really small company, and I knew and I trusted my friends here that if we could make this happen anywhere, it would be here, right? Because of the support. And the other reason is no one can tell me no. Right? Even my partners were like, that's a great idea. And yeah, you know, we're a small company. We have some presence in Europe and North America and everything. But why the Philippines? I say, why not? If anybody who visits here will understand why the Philippines. And so I want to thank everybody here just for that. This is, I feel comfortable in some places and countries and everything, but it just feels like, it's always felt like home here. So that's why. Well, thank you, everybody.
And because the Philippines is a very religious country.
And wait, and there's Jay. So there's all of you, thank you, and then there's Jay.
Your lordly presence is a...
I can't believe he asked a nice question. That's good. Reassess. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sir Elia, as well as to everyone. I hope your answers was answered. Thank you so much, Sir Elia, for sharing us with your wisdom all about Radiant Photo. Congratulations once again for the grand launch of Radiant Photo.